if every company is telling their head of marketing only focus on the tactics that we have direct measurable ROI from, you're going to get paid ads, you're going to get bottom of the funnel, like you're going to get the same types of programs because those are the ones that we know how to measure, which then means that the entire industry is doing the same type of marketing in an undifferentiated way. I'm Margaret Kelsey.
And I'm Devin Bramhall.
And this is Don't Say Content,
a show created in partnership with Share Your Genius. I feel crazy because the last few weeks have been fun and busy and fast-paced between my clients and this conference. And the result of it is I feel like I know what's going on, and also I don't because no one does. And that is making everyone really anxious in the world. But after going to Golden Hour last week and recording our show, I realized just how much anxiety like senior level marketers are having right now. And I'm like, I feel that I'm not in that same, like I'm sort of helping people feel less crazy, but like inside I'm like, oh yeah, like there's a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's the funny thing to be in the places we are right now where we're like kind of adjacent and external and we don't have to sit in the mire and the muck, but you can see the mire and the muck everywhere, the anxiety everywhere. And so there's more data points that is in fact widespread and across lots of different companies and lots of different adjacent industries. But like you're seeing it from all of the different data points rather than like sitting in it itself right now. But you can have empathy for the people who are sitting in it because we've been in that role too.
Oh, yeah. They're just like all the people who are anxious right now in marketing specifically. I get it. I understand. And this entire conversation is going to be anonymous because none of the conversations I've had recently are shareable by name because, it's sensitive. There's a lot of sensitive stuff going on. But it is interesting to see patterns of people who have careers and brands sort of completely rethinking what it is they want to be doing. That was a conversation that came up more than once.
You mean like leaving the tech industry kind of thing, or like and becoming like a potter in the middle of the woods, or?
No. So, well, one person did say they wanted to leave marketing altogether, actually, and not in a disgruntled way at all, actually. But no, it's more like this recognition of how much marketing is changing in the B2B SaaS realm. And because it's so messy right now, some folks have ideas for what clean looks like and are really kind of like going gung ho on that. And other folks, are kind of seeing where their company isn't able to get to a place where they can start experimenting and practicing what the new way might look like. So they're kind of beating their heads against a wall.
And is that mostly like internal resistance to thinking that there needs to be something new?
Yeah, because I think it's a combination of there isn't the money to experiment. There isn't the team to experiment because of the money. And so the expectations are around like measurable, tangible, money related results. It's just, I don't even know why I'm dancing around that. Like folks want to see revenue from marketing.
From every single thing that marketing does.
Yeah. And they want that attribution. And so with limited budget to do that, it's kind of like go after the things that are easy to prove results. And that isn't necessarily working either. And so it's like this.
It's also inherently undifferentiated. You know what I mean? Like it's inherently, if every company is telling their head of marketing only focus on the tactics that we have direct measurable ROI from, you're going to get paid ads, you're going to get bottom of the funnel, like you're going to get the same types of programs because those are the ones that we know how to measure, which then means that the entire industry is doing the same type of marketing in an undifferentiated way.
And there was this other piece that I was unaware of around a lot of companies rather, with the election coming later in the year, even paid media isn't necessarily like they're kind of thinking around like, do I stop my campaigns in the fall? How much noise is there going to be, et cetera? Like, I'm not representing that completely accurately because I can't remember exactly what the person said, but I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even think of that as like, you're going full tilt now, but there's like question on what they're going to be able to achieve with paid media starting in the fall. And I was like, oh wow. So it's really like every part of marketing is having,
An existential crisis.
thank you, even SEO, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think we talked about this on another podcast, but you can see quite tangibly the posts that are tanking because they're largely written by AI. Like there's a tool that will show you Google's dropping them in the rankings suddenly after I think it was the March update or whatever. And it's like, oh no, this thing that companies were starting to adopt in like a non-nuanced way. I'm like, this is not your way out. There's no silver bullet. And like starting to see that come to fruition. These are the types of conversations that I was having at Golden Hour. And the reason why, like, what was really cool for me was that was the first time I've been to a conference where it was mostly a jury of our peers. It was mostly marketing leaders, and it was only a 300 person conference, like, by design. They had it like that was their capacity, and it just felt like we were in this giant room of, like, each other, and that made it that made it one of my favorite conferences.
Yeah. And did it feel like a super safe space because of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they just wanted to talk to each other.
But especially right now, right? Like, especially right now when everyone's, like, doesn't know and there is that anxiety, right? Like, I think maybe in previous points, they all might wanna sit and face forward and learn something, but right now, it's just like, "Do you have the answer? Do you have the answer?"
I mean, Kathleen Booth led a panel. Oh boy. Andrew Davies was on it, and 2 other really smart, well-known people whose names I should recall were on it. And it's really funny because I think our episode came out last week or maybe this week, I can't remember, but it's like she started off that panel saying, "So," and this was a panel of CMOs. She's like, "So seriously though, like, how are you doing?" And I was like, "Exactly." We just like
Yeah, 2 days before is when that episode launched, 2 days before Golden Hour. That's hysterical. "Hey, CMOs, how you doing? Really?"
right? And she doesn't like, I guarantee she does not listen to our podcast.
But it's just timing it right.
Mhm. It's like, you know what's going on, right? It was like, whenever I see stuff like that, I'm like, "Okay, so this isn't just us. This is a full thing." Actually, it's funny, I fully tackled Kathleen Booth after because I've always wanted to meet her, and so she was, like, leading the panel, and then we were outside after everybody was talking, and I was like, "Kathleen!" I was like, "We've never met before. I don't need anything from you. I"
Just wanna say hi.
Yeah. She was so gracious and nice and fun to talk to. I was like it was the
Yeah.
most rewarding thing, but I was
You
just like
should meet your heroes, you know?
yeah. Like, she was super nice and, like, fun to talk to and generous with her time for, like, a little super fan. But, yeah, I think, like, the angst like, you could feel the angst in the room wherever we were. It was at the William Vale, and I looking at sort of like the why behind it and why it's been so why everyone feels crazy and angsty. It's like, right, we have an unsteady economic climate that has any number of positive or negative things that could take place in the next couple of quarters that could, like Fed could raise interest rates, they could lower interest rates, and every quarter we get information.
Yeah, and I think the other really interesting thing when I was at OpenView that I realized was, like, I was always confused on, like, okay, well, why did VC funding dry up? And it's that the LPs have specific allocations for where they put their money, right, in the public market versus private market, and once the public market deflated, it looks like that they were over indexed in the private market, right? Even though it was just that their valuation in the public market went down. And so they'll pull back on their investments and not put investments into the private market because they need to balance their portfolio. But I was always confused by that. I'm like, we're not the public market, right? Like it's private. Like why would this be affected? And it's just based on, LPs having different like standardized allocations for their full pot of money. And so there's like that too, right? And then the pipeline from VC backed startup to IPO is really slow. And so like it's everywhere. It's like all of these things happening all at once, along with technological advancements and generative AI. And
there's like still a lot of money.
yeah,
I was reading some article about like, I hate the term dry powder. It like never made any sense to me. And every time I hear it,
yeah.
I think of a giant pile of Coke.
We like colonial, like people putting gunpowder and tamping it down into the gun. Like, first
I'm
of
just
all,
kidding.
no cocaine references in the podcast.
I was just kidding. Well, sort of. No,
Second
but
of
like,
all, it's not about cocaine. It's about gunpowder. Dry
I
powder is
know, but I always think
gunpowder.
I'm just being honest. I'm not saying I would do that.
You're saying you would be entrepreneurial and sell it if you had a bunch of dry powder?
Well, certainly VCs aren't taking that tack, right? They're sitting on all this money and it's like,
Well, and it's going to super early stage companies, right? Like early stage slowed down a little bit for a while, but like the seed funding, the early stage funding, that has been less affected than the later stage funding. And so I think that helped this cycle of a lot of generative AI startups over the last year or so. Was both the technology was ready, but the investment was going into seed stage startups and not necessarily like going from a B to a C.
and to your point around AI, a lot of that money was going into seed stage AI startups. And so like there were a lot of AI companies carrying the overall like, so when you looked at like, oh, tech is doing well, it's an unhelpful thing to say at any point, because if you look like one level down, you're like, oh, actually it's like just the fact that AI is a thing and tons of investors are putting money into that. And it's like everybody else is having a hard time. So
Yeah, I'm like a marketing advisor slash AI startup.
exactly. Exactly.
MargaretKelsey.ai.
Seriously. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Is that a country code .ai? You know how like .io is a country code?
What?
So you know like the ends of URLs, like .gov
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yes.
yeah. So .ai is the internet country code for Anguilla.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, and like IO is something else. And so I was just wondering what countries getting all this money from people buying the URLs .ai.
I did not realize that they would allow that to happen.
Oh, they're probably happy for it. Let's go, you know?
I guess there's no like internet god being like, this is how URLs are supposed to go. Like anyone can, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, there's nobody that well, it used to be I mean, .gov is regulated, right? You can't just like you
yeah,
couldn't have like devinbramhall.gov,
god
right?
damn it.
But
God
that
damn it.
governing body that owns that like suffix or whatever gets to
Uh,
decide what their ramifications are for you to be able to use it.
yeah. Yeah. Man, we're getting real nerdy today.
This episode is called Semi-Smart Women Talk About Things That Are Way Outside of there.
So, like every conversation a guy has, only we actually admit we don't know as much about it as we're saying.
Oh my God, we're turning into podcast bros. We're
Yes,
like,
we
I
are.
learned something. Let me tell you about this thing that I just now learned today.
And there were some people I got to catch up with, like Sean Blanda. Like I have known Sean Blanda like exists as a human for years, and we just never met. Devin Reed, I had a party the night before, so I was like, "Hey, man, we have the same first name and the same producers, and like we never met."
Yeah, we should probably be friends.
Yeah, I was like, "Do you want to come to my party?"
Aw.
He's super nice, yeah. So it was like the Devins and Devin finally meet, but, like, that was really cool about it is, like, I realized that a lot of us are usually other places speaking, right? And then, you know, if you're on the speaker circuit, you run into each other a lot.
I'm gonna put this out there. I wanna be on the speaker circuit.
Yeah.
Hire me up.
I like the small ones.
Yeah.
I like the smaller ones.
I know
About
I'm putting it out there, but I will probably not go and do a big list and figure out what days work for me and then pitch the ones that would work for me. So just inbound opportunities only.
that doesn't happen anymore unless you're famous.
Well, we're on our way, Devin. We're on our way.
Yeah. Wait, can I tell you a story from Golden Hour that, like, is still boggling my mind? So when Alex and I arrived at the William Vale, which is across the street from my house, it was a long journey. You walk into this lobby and there's like a bunch of, it's kind of like a half circle. So you walk down the hall, you end up in this half circle lobby, and there's a bunch of people sitting on couches and chairs working. And then the staircase is on two sides and it kind of goes down into the middle and continues the rest of the way down. So we were starting to walk down the stairs on the left side, and there was a little bit of a traffic jam on the stairs. And that traffic jam consisted of someone who looked like a celebrity, except I didn't recognize them, and this group of paparazzi. And we were kind of like blocked from going down because the person, the celebrity, as I will call them, was still standing on the stairs as if they were waiting to descend. And the paparazzi were there and kind of moving around, like taking pictures. And then all of a sudden, these paparazzi guys are like clamoring all over each other, like yelling, like asking questions, like, hey, over here, blah, 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 blah. And this guy, and so all these flashes are happening. And this guy starts walking down the stairs, and there's like total chaos. And I was like, what's happening? This is how I entered the conference. I was like, what?
And the celebrity was walking down towards the conference?
Yeah. So like down the stairs, and you're in sort of another room that had doors on either side that like one led to a big conference hall, the other one led to another room with other conference rooms off it. And so this room is like, it's like a lobby. Everyone's like standing around talking. And so we go downstairs, we immediately see friends, we're standing around talking. But these paparazzi guys, they're like bumping into us, and it's not clear why they're there. And so I was like, oh, guys, there's always like, they film movies around me, my neighborhood, like at least once a week. And there was a ton of movie trucks down the street. So I was like, oh, they're probably just using this as like background for a movie. I was like, this has to be a movie. And I say that to Ryan Baum, and he's like, no, somebody hired them. They're like a TikTok thing. And he's like, somebody hired them to come like make a big deal out of them at the conference. And I was like, no, that's not I was like, Ryan, you're wrong. That's not what's happening. But there's like this guy and this girl, and they keep being paparazzied by these guys. And it's like kind of annoying because it's not a huge space and they're like bumping into us or whatever, but it's not a big deal. And so like a little while later, and I see the guys like chilling out. They're clearly taking a break. And I was like, this is my chance.
Yeah.
Because you know I can't let things go.
Yeah. You're like, I need to validate this hypothesis for sure.
And so I go over to them and I was like, hey guys, I was so confused that like I didn't even know the right question to ask.
Yeah. You're like, are you real paparazzi? Like, do you want to be here? Is this going to make you money? Like, how are you making money from being here?
Yes, exactly.
Do you get to sell these images, or are they paying you?
Yeah. And they were, oh, sorry, I should have mentioned this earlier. They were wearing like tuxedos. So it was clear to me that they were not real paparazzi. I still didn't know what they were doing there. Like, what was the purpose of this? By that point, I had moved my assumption to, oh, AudienePlus must have hired them to make a stink about people at the conference and like have that be part of their post-conference content strategy. And I was like, this is an installation and it's a great idea. But then they were only around those two people who were dressed really nice and fashionably. So I was like, I feel like I should know them, but I don't. So I go over to these guys and I was like, what are you doing here? And they're like, we're paparazzi. Like, they stayed in character. And one of them's like showing me, he's like, look at my press pass. And then one shows me, he's like, look, I made money. And he takes this like $100 bill that's the size of like a piece of gum. And I was like, guys, I get it. I know you're like understood, but like, this is an installation, right? And they keep going on their shtick. And finally, like, I kind of get the wink and the nod, right? So I'm like, confirmed. But I still don't know what the heck they're doing here. So it turns out that Apollo had brought them as it was an installation. They brought it as an installation. And I was like, okay, I get it. It actually would work. Like, I think it would have been better in a bigger setting, like an inbound, just because it was such a small space. But like, I don't think anyone really cared that much.
But listen, I appreciate that people are starting to go creative again with the fucking B2B marketing, right? Good. Let's do some weird stuff.
But the funny thing about it was that it took up so much space in terms of people's like confusion around it.
But that's great too, right? Like, then you're talking about it. And then once you hear it's Apollo, it's like, oh, wow, okay, Apollo. I'm going to remember that. And you think about using that, like you said, in like post-event, stuff, and like that's smart. Post-event content, post-event. Yeah, there's some good follow-up activities there.
I just thought it was so funny because it became this thing, and that we all were like, what is going on here? What is this? And so it was really effective. And I thought it was effective on such a deep level that like we ended up talking about it a lot because we were like, what is going on?
Well, I always go back to that I did like one of those like online master classes with Malcolm Gladwell. And the biggest takeaway that I got from that, it's all recorded. I wasn't like actually with Malcolm Gladwell, but like it was great videos. And the biggest takeaway was that when there is a mystery, human beings can't stop thinking about it. Like an unsolved problem or a mystery gets stuck into your brain. So that's why people love true crime podcasts. They love, whatever. And that's why he ends his chapters with kind of like cliffhangers. And even his book will be like not fully solved, right? Every book has more more thread lines. You can read more stuff. You can figure it out. It doesn't tie things up in a neat and tidy package. And so I think that's smart too, is like a lot of marketing we think needs to be like, make it so that it's perfectly formed in a little bow so nobody has to think about it again and they get all of the information, when in fact, like that's really valuable to be like everyone being like, who is that? What is that thing? That's so confusing. My prediction is that there's going to be this wave of like absurdity marketing for B2B where it's just like a little off, where like you start talking about it, you start thinking about it if we do what we should be doing, which is really try to differentiate and get out there.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you use that example of Malcolm Gladwell, because if you think about it, that kind of explains why the anxiety is so high and prevalent and being talked about, because we are in the midst of an unsolved mystery. And so no one can stop talking about it and focusing on it. And it's like, because none of us know what's going to happen next for sure. And so what a great way to like button that up. Holy shit. Yeah. We can't stop talking about our own true crime situation in marketing, where we're like, it's not even about like who died and who done it. It's like, who's going to die?
We're like the beginning of a murder mystery dinner party where like we don't even know the rules of the game yet. We're like, somebody's dying tonight. I don't know how realistic it's going to be. I don't know who's going to be doing it. I don't know what characters we're playing yet, but like someone's dying tonight.
Like, we don't even know who's invited to dinner.
Yeah. Not everyone has arrived yet.
It's so true. It's so
Oh
true.
my goodness.
I might have started a rumor while I was there.
About what?
I might be going in-house somewhere.
Oh, is that a true rumor or you just wanted to stir the pot?
It is a rumor because it's something that I've been thinking. It's a thought that has not been resolved, but I planted a little bit of a, you know me, I love to like get the people going.
Yeah, you want a little drama. You want, oh, where's Devin going to end up? Where's Devin going to end up?
Because people keep asking and they're like, I don't think anyone was like settled with me consulting. I'm so stirring the pot and I love it so much. I love
You're increasing the FOMO of working with you, so people start snatching you up.
Oh my God. No, actually, that's not it at all. I actually am considering going in-house somewhere. But I also like to stir the pot and make people wonder.
You like to sneak into their brains, right? Unsolved
know.
mystery and won't tell you what it is, won't tell you what it is.
Cancer showed me that like I need to have more fun. And so I'm having more fun because everybody's so serious right now. And I'm like, y'all, if you took a step back, like I think everything's going to be fine. And so I feel like I'm the one trying to like lighten the mood everywhere. I'm like, whereas in the past, I'm always the one who's like, this is serious, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, listen, I have experienced random acts of cancer in a very short period of time. And I learned that really nothing matters if you're not having a good time.
It's true. That's a good reminder for me this week too. Thank you, Devin.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We're going to go now because it's time for us to go. And that's my story. So you're welcome. I'm a great marketer.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you, listeners.
Okay, y'all. That's a wrap. Thank you, as always, for listening.
We'll be back next week. And just remember, you're doing great. You're doing great.
30% of you are doing great. The rest, you got to get your shit together. Come on.
You know which side you're on this week.
You know.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm starting my own sub murder mystery.
Yeah. We don't know who's invited to the murder mystery party, but guess what? When she goes in-house, all you competitors of this eventual in-house role should be scared. Y'all should be shaking in your boots right now.
I did coin the phrase last night, serialistic murder tendencies. And I swear it made sense. Well, also doesn't make sense, like technically.
Yeah.
But it also does. And yeah.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast over here.
You are. I'm gonna just infuse this energy into my life right now. I needed this today, so
Yeah.
thank you.